Hello everyone, I'm Asya, and even though this might currently look like some kind of a YouTube vlog, I'm actually here to deliver this week's session for the module Studying the Media and Communication. The theme for today is Industry Studies, and here is the outline for our session. Firstly, I want to introduce to you the topic in a little bit more detail, then the tool that I have developed for today that should be helping us to start producing a study or the design for one. And I will then go into a little bit more depth into ethnographic approach to industry studies, because this is the way in which I have pursued some of my research so far. So I would like to stress the importance of creating a mosaic of different insights to an industry when we try to arrive at new findings. But also I would speak briefly about the importance of interpretation when we talk about industry studies. So, which industries are we actually talking about? Well, this could be quite a complex and contested theme here, but I'm going to use David Hesmunko's interpretation here and suggest that in this case we are looking at industries that are directly engaging with the creation of cultural meanings and representations. So depending on what field you're working in or you would like to be a scholar in, you could interpret that differently and direct yourself into whatever is most relevant to you. So this could be within journalism or television, film, music, so forth. So here is the tool that I have created for today, and hopefully all of you have got access to a copy of that. So here is a set of questions that follow some of the content of the key reading for this module by Paul Long and Tim Wall. Issues that have to do with text and production and context of industry that you would like to be focusing on, as well as some questions about methodology that we will focus on by the end. But in this brief excerpt of today's session, I'm going to focus on several particular elements of creating an industry study. So to begin with, I would like to say that the gramophone on the first slide with the title was actually there on purpose, because I sought to make a reference to Theodor Adorno, who is a key theorist from that is relevant to today's session, because he started talking about the notion of standardization when we are talking about creative industries. So he was writing particularly about music and the mechanical reproduction of music, which according to him led to a standardized, simplified content, which was actually harmful to the creativity and artistic integrity of music. So what I'm suggesting here is that when we are conducting an industry study, we need to be focusing on the tensions that may be existing and probably would be existing there between commerce and creativity. Because on one hand, we're looking on creative industries as some kind of a field for expression of artists, or when we're talking about journalism or something else, this is a field that should really be about investigation, about democracy, about public interest. But sometimes we have to also be quite realistic about it and think about the economics base that really defines how these structures work. So be quite sensitive towards this theme between how we are considering the industries of media and communication to stand between commerce and creativity. Another useful theorist in this area would be Pierre Bourdieu, who may call some of these issues that we would be studying a cultural field of production, where everything is about a struggle for resources. So I was aiming here to give an example, particularly with journalism and with news production. So in our view, potentially, if we are quite idealistic about it, as journalists or people working within media industries, we seek to serve the public interest, to inform people and to help them be very, very useful and aware when they become parts of the democratic process. But on the other hand, what we have to consider is the importance of popularity as something which is not the same as public interest. So concepts such as tabloidization, the simplification of news, and the articulation of things that have to do more with lifestyle, with human interest, and so forth. So, well, how do we do all that? Even though these are theoretical issues and themes that we need to be sensitive about and think about, we also need a way to approach a new insight into a particular field of study or an industry that we are interested in. Well, here you may suggest that I'm biased, but I'm gonna say a few words about ethnography as an option you may seek to pursue. So, here is a picture of my home city, which is Sofia, and the reason why I have chosen it there is because I could call this my ethnographic field for my PhD, which I have now finished a while ago. But what was my study about? Well, it was about popular music and how it is created within the social and political context of contemporary Bulgaria. And I chose to pursue that topic by talking to people who stand at different positions within the field or the industry. So here we arrive at the next theme, and which has to do with constructing a mosaic. So this is a reference that I'm making here to Norman Denzin and also to Shane Blackman, who wrote about the ethnographic mosaic at different points in time. So the idea is to voice a palette of positions that relate to the field that you're studying. So in my case, this was including artists, including also people who are at managing positions at labels, music journalists, and what Bourdieu would call cultural intermediates. And at the same time, the mosaic also consists of another type of contexts and trajectories that we would seek to pursue here in order to create quite a wholesome picture and in order to arrive at new concepts that may have an impact. So these contexts may consist of the historical and the geographical, political, social trajectories that define the contemporary field that we're looking at and that have been very influential to arriving at its current state. Okay, so let's say that we have collected all our data that we'll focus on in a moment. So what kind of issues we may encounter when we're trying to access a field. Well, it is also key to think about quite early on the interpretation and the output that we're going to arrive at through an industry study. So the interpretation in this case is absolutely key, because raw data doesn't really work in this case. We need to tell people, not really chuck all of the raw data at them. The idea would be to really create a concept out of what we have found out and deliver that in whatever kind of way we choose, whether that's going to be an event, a gig, or a film, or a classical research paper or something like that, which will probably be what we're going to write in this module. So here, we need to think about interpretation and its balance with accessing raw data, because your audience will probably be quite curious to have their imagination woken up by what they read or what they hear, what they see. So access to the voice of the raw field could also be quite useful, as well as a level of interpretation. So these are all things to consider in the workshop part of this session. So, for the rest here, we are going to talk a little bit more about the theory that informs our industry studies. So talk a bit more about Adorno and Bourdieu and some other very useful ideas there. You don't necessarily need to take those on board or use them, but the idea is that you have to be aware of them in order to integrate your study into a kind of higher level of academic, theoretical, and so forth legitimacy. And I'm also going to talk about a set of examples there that you may find useful, different approaches to industry studies, different ways that industry studies have actually had an impact. I'm going to talk about also methodology and access to the field, and focus above all on our research design before we have our final words there, which will be about housekeeping. And also I would really like to hear your feedback about today's session so that we can improve it and make it more interactive and come up with new things to engage ourselves into what we're doing here together. Thank you.